1990s when you could get away with something like that?
Yeah, obviously there were a lot less records on computers at that time. It was still file cabinets and I don't even know if it was metal or it was ceramic. I think there's a fine line between the two.
Now, one of the things that's happened to you that has allowed people to discredit you was there's obviously been some sort of an effort to erase your past.
Yeah.
Some sort of an effort to erase your education history, your employment history at Los Alamos. In fact, the only way your employment history was proven at Los Alamos was someone got a directory of the employees from the past and read into it, and you were on that list. So it proved that you worked there even though people were trying to deny it, and they were trying to use that as a way to discredit you, that you never did work at Los Alamos. You weren't really a scientist. What was that like to experience? I mean, of course, we're talking about the 1980s, the 1990s, when you could get away with something like that.
Yeah, obviously there were a lot less records on computers at that time. It was still file cabinets and folders. But that was frightening. That was one of the first things
what happened?
I think George Knapp was the first one that uncovered that. I mean, he saw my birth certificate disappear.
It disappeared.
Yeah,
there was no record of you being.
Yeah, there was no record of that. There was no record.
His mom tells me about that. Like, it was frightening for her. He's got a real family. You know, he's a real person. It's frightening for her.
But the Los Alamos thing really surprised me, and that they were so adamant that no, this guy never worked here. Don't be ridiculous. And George went back and forth, for
I got the letters on the wall. Yeah,
months. I mean, it was ridiculous. But fortunately, somebody came up with a 1982 phone book directory. I mean, and also, originally I told you, when I worked there, I was on the front page of the paper. So they were still able to archive, bring that back from the archives. And, Bob Lazar, a physicist working here at Los Alamos, so there was at least something there. But somehow George came up with the phone directory.
And then Bob took George with cameras into Los Alamos.
Oh, yeah. So we flew out there, and I said, look, come on in. I'll show you where I worked. We'll go in. We'll meet people. And George went with me and, filmed
you knew
inside
how to
there.
navigate the place. So you'd
met people, and, and
Los Alamos was also the place where they had the machine that was able to read the size of your digits.
No, that was Los Alamos. That was S4.
That was S4. And explain that.
So now this was back in the 80s.
And this is back in the 80s where when you discuss this, people are like, this doesn't even exist.
Yeah.
Okay. What was it?
It was a way, this is before fingerprint scanners and, and any high resolution scanner at that time. So what it was a device that had a little picture of a hand on a glass plate with pins in it, so you could jam your hand in there. And there was a bright light above it and a sensor underneath. And when you put your hand in there, the light would turn on, and it would measure the bones in your finger because the light shone through your bones. And apparently, the length of the bones in your fingers are extremely unique and easy to measure. And they used that. When you put your hands on there, the light would turn on and your badge would pop out.
There's it right there.
Oh, there it is. That's it. And I tried to describe this to people, and they said, that is the most ridiculous thing we've ever heard. And I said, hey, my badge came out of that thing. I put my hand on it, badge popped out, and that's how I could open the doors and get into S4. And,
and everybody discredited that. They said it was bullshit, it was science fiction. And Jeremy, you found this.
I found it through a good friend of mine named Tyler Rogaway, and he had some good sources inside of Area 52 where they also used these for the stealth program right around that time. So now I've got all these people that worked within who, said only if you're in certain programs would we use this technology. It was kind of shit, actually. They didn't keep it for very long. It was the beginning of biometrics. So I was able to reveal it in my film. I kept my mouth shut until I showed it to Bob. In the movie, the first time he saw it was how you see it in the documentary. That's his genuine reaction. I'm getting goosebumps.
That was a great idea, the way you did it.
Thank you, man, because you know what? Guess what? I'm actually trying to see if he's telling the truth. That's how I started. That's how I started. So it was really cool to see that, and that you get to see it, his actual reaction.
Has that been verified by other people?
Yeah, so to me it has, personally. I get emails every day, and people are telling me where these are used and how they're used, and to send me photos. I got a lot of photos of identity mats now.
Well, how they were used, right? They're not
How they were used,
they're not
but
using it
yeah,
anymore.
but I don't. The most recent one was way more recent than I thought in another country. But yeah, that technology was used. So what's so funny is that this technology, even in the Area 52 where they'd use them for Tonopah, one of the guys who will go on camera with me, he will do an interview with me. He was a technician for one of these. And he hated them because they were really bad. They always broke down and he was a technician for him. Now, he won't tell me where. If he worked at Area 52, so it was probably Tonopah. It's very separated, even on the base. But yeah,
So there was that.
yeah.
There is your education record. That was also like, what happened with that?
Well, that disappeared also. You know that I've never gone anywhere for education. I never attended any classes at Caltech. I never attended anything at MIT.
You did attend classes in those places, though.
I did attend classes in those places.
Do you know anybody that you went to school with?
Yes, I do.
And have they verified that they went to school with you?
Well, I gave Jeremy some names, but the reason I don't say these names publicly
Of
is
course.
because every single time I mention a name, somebody gets in trouble.
They don't want to be.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. But what is that experience like, seeing your birth certificate erased, seeing your employment
Well, it's
history?
frightening. It's absolutely
But
frightening.
it's also the fuel that the debunkers use, the so-called air quote skeptics. I don't like the term skeptics. I'm going to say this publicly because I really have only said this privately. I think it's a sloppy, lazy way to look at things, to just be a skeptic.
Look,
Just I want people to be objective. And I think there's a lot of things you should be skeptical of. I think you should